Good morning and welcome back to Cardiff for continuing live coverage of the Wheelchair Rugby European Championships. We are about to watch the Netherlands against Israel to see who goes into the 5th, 6th place playoff, which happens tomorrow. But an intriguing situation here this morning. If you were with us yesterday, you will have seen that torrential rain in Cardiff caused some rainwater to drop from the inside of the roof here at the Principality Stadium onto the court. You can see, what, 1, 2, 3, around about 6 bins out there catching raindrops on that main court. But the good news is, here we go, as if by magic, there is a practice court. It just shows you how big a venue this is, that we do have a spare court to use for the match, and that means that Netherlands-Israel can take place and we can bring you live coverage of it over in this other corner. And well done to everyone who's moved all the cameras across as well. So we're looking forward to this one, but last night, what a match we had. Great Britain against Denmark. It was the final match in Pool B, and it decided which of these teams finished top of the group, which of these teams finished second. And Great Britain performed extremely well. It was a really interesting tactical battle. Both teams usually going for a mix of high and low point players. Great Britain eventually coming through 52 points to 45. So GB finished top with 3 wins out of 3, Denmark second. And it means that the semi-final lineup later on is very exciting. It gives Great Britain a slight advantage because Britain have avoided France, who look red hot. And Stuart Robinson, again, at the centre of things. Him and his mate Aaron Phipps have played together for so long that they have this telepathic connection sometimes out on the court. Here's Robinson crossing the line one more time, and after the match we spoke to the man who lost his legs in Afghanistan, found wheelchair rugby through the Invictus Games, and is now a stalwart of this Great Britain side.
Stu, first and foremost, congratulations. That was an epic battle out there. You must be incredibly proud of yourself and of your teammates.
Yeah, an amazing performance. We knew that coming out against the Danes would be a pretty strong match. We had to be at our best, and luckily we came out there. We played a really good performance, and hopefully we can carry it on into tomorrow, into Sunday.
I'd say a lot of the praise has got to go to Paul Shaw, the coach, as well, because tactically, every time the Danes switched, he made a switch as well, with different lineups, high-low, and then more balanced lineups, and he seemed to have a tactical jump on the Danes.
Yeah, I think one of the bonuses that we've got as this squad is quite a strong, in-depth squad. We can put any number of different lines on, and it just showed tonight that anyone that come on that court is quite competitive, no matter who we're playing against.
Exactly, you can run a number of different lines, but you seem to be out there, I think, for pretty much every minute of it. Is that your choice? Are you a difficult man to get off?
Well, it's obviously pretty tiring work, especially playing against the Danes who run us all the way down to the clock, but I'm never going to say no to minutes anytime you get it, but yeah, I'm quite happy to play as much as the coach will let me.
Thank you very much, and all the best for the semi-finals.
Perfect, thank you.
Stuart Robinson, one of the heroes of the Great Britain wheelchair rugby squad, one of the 7 men who won the Tokyo Paralympic gold, who are competing again here at the European Championships. We'll take a look at the 2 pools for you to explain the state of play. So in Pool A, France were the team that got 3 wins out of 3 for 6 points. Germany finishing second, and 2 wins, and then that defeat, heavy defeat in fact, to France yesterday. Netherlands finishing third, and the Czech Republic, one of those teams at this year's championship who don't have a high point scoring player, and that really does cost them. So France looking very, very good. You can see the huge points differential there of plus 77. And then into Pool B, and it was Great Britain who took the 3 wins out of 3, again with a healthy points differential. Denmark seeing off Israel and Switzerland in convincing style, but couldn't get past GB. Switzerland finishing third, and Israel fourth. Israel learning so much, winning plenty of friends here, and they will be back, I'm sure, in future tournaments, having learnt a lot here in Cardiff. And it all means that this is the state of play into this final weekend. So the two semi-finals there, top left of your picture. Great Britain, as I say, by winning their pool, avoid France. Great Britain will take on Germany this afternoon, 3:45 local time here in Cardiff. And if you're in the UK, that one will be live on Channel 4 television. At 6 o'clock this evening, France play Denmark, and then at the bottom of your screen on the left there, we have the two matches happening before the two semi-finals. So these matches decide who goes into the games to decide 5th and 6th, and who goes into the game that decides 7th and 8th. So every one of the 8 teams that have been here at the European Championships will have a final position at the end of the tournament, and Netherlands, Israel have a chance of finishing 5th. Whoever loses this match we're about to watch will have to play again tonight, so 2 matches in one day for the losing team. But the Netherlands and Israel is an intriguing encounter. The Netherlands world ranked 14, Israel world ranked 20. And let's take a look at how they got on in their matches yesterday. Well, the Netherlands in the blue here. A big win against the Czech Republic. 66 points for the Dutch. And there was a real imbalance between the Netherlands having their high point players who are speedy, mobile, very agile, and the Czech Republic who don't have any of those players. So the Czech Republic's play is built on what is meant to be a solid foundation of defence and short passes, but the Dutch were able to rip them apart, really. And then Israel, who had had 2 heavy defeats earlier in the tournament. They'd lost 55-32 to Great Britain and then 68-43 to Denmark. Well, they gave the Swiss a real game here, as you can see, only losing by 4 points in the end, and there were some big hits in from their dream duo, Zidkiau and this man, Carasenti. So I think Israel might fancy their chances coming in here against the Dutch this morning. So just to recap again, we're on this practice court down in front of you now. And the squads line up like this. Martin van Hinter of the Netherlands names a quartet there highlighted in gold. They are the 4 players who will start. Emilio Moos and Joop van der Laan have been the high point scorers so far for the Netherlands. Ben Bazan getting a start, and Ruben van der Laar, who plays for the Nijmegen Mavericks. Here is the Dutch squad warming up, getting used to the different court. The practice court actually might be a little bit shinier than the match court. The match court quite rough in areas, lots of tyre marks on it now, of course, having had a few days of play, but the important thing is the practice court seems dry. And Shlomi Spivak has this squad to play with. Zidkiau, the number 11 there on the right, and Neria Carasenti have been dominating the scoring for Israel, but the likes of Alon Nigri and Shia Teresa, who also start this morning, are absolutely vital in their defensive work. As we've been seeing all of this week, wheelchair rugby, like the standing game really, where you have backs and forwards doing very different jobs. It is the same in wheelchair rugby with low point players and high point players. Carasenti there on the right with the ponytail. He has burst onto the scene here this week in Cardiff. Hugely exciting player. Been around for about 4 years in wheelchair rugby. Carasenti has arthritis. And Zidkiau on the left there with the wonderful facial hair and the curly hair. He's played wheelchair rugby for 12 years. So I'm pleased to say we do still have some supporters. It's family and friends and officials. Because of 1 or 2 other things happening around the United Kingdom this morning. This match officially behind closed doors. No tickets sold for this morning session, but there are a few Dutch supporters in, who I'm sure will all have connections to some of the players in one form or another. And it's nice actually that despite the match happening on the practice court, we do still have a good atmosphere over there. He's well, he's either having a very, very late night or an early morning, but well done to you, sir. You can actually still see, is that some sort of flannel or towel on the court there, one of the volunteers using. So I don't think the practice court is completely dry, but much safer than the main court that hopefully will be okay for later on, because as I said, it's a big day here at the championships. Two big semi-finals later on, Great Britain against Germany at 3:45 and France Denmark at 6, and the organisers will be desperate to get back on the main match court for those two at the very least. And the final tomorrow afternoon, the gold medal match at 3 p.m. and that one too is also live on Channel 4 TV in the UK. So we have reached the concluding stages. I'm pleased to say that Wheelchair Rugby referee Simon Starr has joined me. Simon, have you ever experienced this with rainwater falling onto a court or something like this that holds up play?
I have, last season. In the GBWR leagues, we had a league weekend at Stoke-on-Trent and the roof leaked. So, fortunately, Fenton Manor is a fantastically large facility. There was another court in another hall, so we went and grabbed rolls of tape, quickly marked out keys and substitution areas and penalty box areas. Within 20 minutes, we were able to shift court.
Oh, there we go. Well
There's
done.
always a plan B.
Absolutely. And talking of big venues, obviously this is a huge venue, so there's plenty of room for the practice court and all of the other facilities here. Excuse me. So it is it's a big achievement to be able to get this match on, and we suspect that perhaps the second match this morning may also take place on this practice court. That's Czech Republic versus Switzerland at 1 o'clock. Talking of referees, here are our referees for this one: Yunho Kim of Korea and Kristen Hempfling of Germany. And everybody, including the officials, have got to get used to being over on a different court. I'm assuming, Simon, that a court wouldn't really play any differently, would it? I was referring to a lot of the tyre marks and things on this main court, and maybe not quite so much of that over on the practice court.
The main court is absolutely true. The practice court, it plays a little bit differently. The players would be much happier on the main field of play, but it's the same for both teams, so they'll adapt and overcome. And yeah, wheelchair rugby players are used to just getting on with it, and they'll deal with any circumstances. The referees, the table officials, exactly the same.
And Netherlands do start this one favourites, but actually I think Israel will give this a really good go. So just to clarify, the winners would go into a playoff for 5th and 6th place, which would happen tomorrow. The losers would go into a playoff for 7th or 8th place in the tournament, and that 7th or 8th place match happens actually tonight at 8 o'clock. So we are just about ready, obviously with the switching court and switching facilities. We will try to keep you up to date with things like how long is left in the quarter and shot clock and things like that, but we'll do our best for you, and I'm sure you'll understand that things have unexpectedly moved here this morning. So the Netherlands win the tip-off, and it's Van der Laan with possession. He's had a really brilliant tournament, and he gets over the line very easily. Teresa for Israel, just inside the halfway line, and don't forget the teams only have 40 seconds to score on a particular play. Teresa tries to find his teammate Nigri, but that's a good interception, the interception from Ben Bazan. And here's Van der Laan again. Van der Laan has been reclassified this week, actually, from a 2 to a 2.5 player.
One of two players from the Netherlands, Razel Karabalut, also going from a 3 to a 3.5, and you'd normally see Razel in the starting 4, and that reclassification probably the reason why he isn't today.
or perhaps in the break between quarters or at half-time we might discuss how all that works. But for the time being, here's Emilio Moose, who is best friends with Cara Balut. They went to school together. And Moose is a player that you can't take your eyes off. So a timeout has been called.
I suspect the reason for that was one of the Netherlands players was trapped in the key. We didn't have that wider shot, but that would be the only reason why the Netherlands might have called that.
This was the earlier try, I think, for Van der Laan going across the line. 25 years old, Van der Laan. Each team has 4 timeouts in a match. Emilio Moose here, as I say, he's a player you can't take your eyes off. He's a very skillful, quick player, but he's also a very intense player. He has a bit of an edge to him, and we saw, particularly in the match between Netherlands and Germany, a bit of aggressive, perhaps naughty stuff from him.
So that last try for the Netherlands was a penalty try, as 2 of the Israeli defenders were driven back over their own line.
So it is 2-0. Caricenti, who's really burst through this week. And talking of bursting through, oh, he's almost across the line, but that was a great block by Bazan. Has Bazan stopped him? I think he has.
He has, yeah. Looks as if it's going to be a sideline ball to the Netherlands, so great defence there, and using the cone or the post as his extra defender there.
You can see the reaction from Bazan straight away. That was like scoring a try himself. That was a great piece of defensive work from Ben Bazan, 23 years old, plays for the Quad Fighters back at home in the Netherlands. And here's Emilio Moose, just sort of lobs the ball up, and it goes loose. Caricenti was in there as well. I think Moose wasn't quite expecting the challenge here to come in as quickly as it did, and he sort of had to fling the ball away.
It was quite a casual pass. I think he thought it was nailed on, but Caricenti was across very quickly. But unfortunately, it came off his chair, so it's still Netherlands ball.
So Moose comes forward again with the ball in his lap and just dinks it forward off the floor to Van der Laan, who's over again. And in the blink of an eye, the Dutch have a 3-0 lead. It shows the value of Ben Bazan's block at the other end, keeping Israel off the scoreboard at the moment.
And as well as having to play twice in one day, the team that fails to win here in this match will also find themselves relegated to Division B, and will have to fight once again to get back into this elite level.
Talking of elite levels, Id Kiao, definitely an elite player. He's had a fantastic week. Mordecai Kiao, he was the MVP, most valuable player at the B Euro Championship in Warsaw back in 2021. He really has excited the crowds this week. Moves at the other end, makes it 4-1. Love his laid-back sort of style as he crosses the line. And Caricenti and Kiao have definitely ran things for Israel in an attacking sense. We've got about 5 minutes 20, I think, left in this first quarter.
So Israel have a habit of going to B-level championships and picking up most valuable player. Alon Nigri got the most valuable player at the qualifying tournament for this event, held in Norway back in September 22.
You don't feel it would take much to turn Israel into a bigger force in the game. You know, 1 or 2 extra players, perhaps a 3.5 player, if they can find one, would really change things.
Yes, well, they've brought Dan Lahat with them for this tournament. First time we've seen him, and he's been classified as a 3-point player, but he's still very, very new to the game. So I think it's going to be a while before they've got the power of a real high pointer.
There he is, watching on, Dan Lahat. But yes, we've seen with other teams, Switzerland I can think of, Czech Republic in particular, who don't have those high point players, and it makes a huge difference to how they can compete. A reminder that every player has a points classification as an individual, but then the coach has to juggle things around because the quartet out on the court can't total more than 8 points, or 8.5 if there's a female player out there. So there's lots of tactical decisions going on. And this 3-point margin still intact for the Netherlands at 6-3. As Caricenti comes forward, his ponytail waving in the air behind him as he whizzes past the Dutch defence. And that's a good score for Caricenti. As I mentioned, he was born with arthritis, which is an unusual situation. He's been brilliant, hasn't he, this week?
He has. In the 3 tournaments I've seen him play, I've been so impressed with his ability and the way he links up with Zikayo. They're a really great strike force, considering that they're mid-pointers as well. They punch well above their weight.
So the low pointers, the 0.5s, the 1s, the 1.5s, their primary role is defensive duties. Here's an example of Ben Bazin there in the centre trying to get back. Also Ruben van der Laar as well, number 4 for Holland. They were trying to get back, but always facing a bit of a losing battle there, chasing down Caricenti. And it's end-to-end stuff. Oh, and over Moose goes, and he loses possession of the ball as well. Let's look at that challenge again, and so, Simon can take us through the legalities of this challenge.
He's hit him in front of the axle side on. That's a great hit from Zikayo. The way Yun Ho Kim has moved towards the table, I can only assume that Emilio Moers had the presence of mind to call a timeout before he crashed to the floor. And yes, we can see Yun Ho Kim has swapped positions with Kristin Hempfling, which means there was a timeout called, and that was a great play. So the Netherlands have used 2 of their timeouts already, but they will retain possession.
I'm slightly relieved he called for a timeout, because he was either shouting timeout or something a bit fruitier that we probably shouldn't tell you. So I'm kind of relieved it was timeout, or whatever the Dutch word for timeout is. But yes, he did exactly that, and as you say, presence of mind as he's falling. Remember, you would think that as a player is falling, their mind would be taken up by falling safely and preventing injury, but he was able to also shout out, which rescued the situation for the Netherlands. He's blocked on the line though by a combination of Nigri and Zidkiao, and I think there were only 3 Israelis in the key, so that was a good defensive move, or was it a penalty try in the end?
I suspect it might have been a penalty try. Yes, the inbounds from behind the try line, so it was a try scored, because I think it might have been illegal use of hands was the call, because there was a lot going on in there.
So when there is a melee, usually in the key, as Simon says, there's sort of hands everywhere, and you're allowed to, as they're doing now, put their hands in on the ball and try and swipe the ball away. They're just not allowed to make contact with the opposition's player's arm or hands, no bodily contact. The referees have to be eagle-eyed.
They do, and they won't call everything. If they did, we'd have no game.
Discretion, yeah.
So if a player's not majorly disadvantaged, then we'll let the game flow. It always makes me smile when a player apologises when you call them. Oh, I'm sorry, ref. I said, well, don't be sorry. It's part of the game. You're allowed to. And I may or may not call you.
Netherlands with possession again here. Van der Laan has a couple of teammates ahead of him who he won't pass to. He'll use them as blockers, and now, well, he thought about the pass to Bazin. But as Van der Laan is the most agile of those players, it makes actually more sense for him to keep the ball and let his teammates do the blocking ahead of him. Moes acting as a battering ram as well, and a perfect illustration there of how a wheelchair rugby team operates.
Yes, very, very, very patient. Not giving the ball to a player who's with less function, who's more likely to lose possession. So yeah, passing is a risk. So if you can give the ball to one player who's got the ability to hold on to it the whole time. And that was a great block there by Bazan.
Yeah, wonderful stuff from Bazan, and it means that Van der Laan picks up the ball. Carasenti's on his way over. And there he goes.
That'll be a holding foul against Carasenti because he made contact with the player from the Netherlands. So he'll find himself in the penalty box, and then they'll get a new 40 seconds for the Netherlands. Hand clearly on the lap. Ben Bazan, arms open, looking at the referee, saying, "You going to blow this?"
I mean, he was holding himself up, really, wasn't he?
He was.
By the end.
Can't blame him.
No. So it is 4-on-3 for a few moments. When the Netherlands score, Carasenti will come back out.
When you have a player in the penalty box, you'll see teams not bothering to defend because they don't want to give away that penalty try, which would allow mean that the player stays in there. He's got another turnover from the Netherlands.
Yeah, that was another good hand in there from Van der Laan this time, wasn't it?
It was, and Carcenti's hand came in again, trying to retrieve the situation, and he's straight back. They'll be stamping his season ticket very shortly.
And possession is so important, isn't it? You can see Van der Laan celebrating that steal more than he celebrates some of the tries he scores.
Yes.
And it's because it's so significant in the ebb and flow of the match. Now, who's that ball come off? We'll see when the referee makes her gesture.
So it'll be Israel ball, so it must have come off an orange hand. So hands in there from everywhere, so Teresa caught before Carcenti. Good perm anyone from 3, I think.
One of the biggest reactions of the week, actually, I've seen from Van der Laan. Now we're getting towards the end of the first quarter, so players will begin to think about trying to make sure they have the last possession of the quarter. Every team has 40 seconds in possession to try and score a try, otherwise possession gets handed over. So teams will try to use up as much of that time as they possibly can.
Right. And because teams are looking to manage the clock now, the referees are conscious of that, so there was an opportunity to award a penalty try there for the Israeli player leaving the court, but they now have 2 players in the penalty box, and the Netherlands have a new 40 seconds, assuming there's still that amount of seconds left on the clock. But it gives them the opportunity to manage the clock, and we've got 4v2 here, so...
Wow, we've not seen this, I don't think. I've certainly not seen this in any of the matches I've commentated on this week. 4-on-2. The Netherlands will just play cat and mouse here for a bit, because they will count down the clock. No point scoring, because it would bring both of them back out?
No, only...
Or just the one?
Only Shia Teresa will come back on, and... the Alon Nigri will move up into the first slot, and if the interval occurs before he comes out of the box, during the first and second periods, he has to stay in the penalty box. The coach can't come and speak to him. He can't have water taken to him or any Haribo or any other high sugar content sweet, unless the team has already put that in there prior to the start of the game.
Carasenti's over in the centre circle, so play will stop. And actually, I don't know about you, Simon, but watching this first quarter, it's felt like the Netherlands have been quite dominant, and yet actually they're only 4 points ahead. Israel have done well to hang in there.
Yes, they have. And they've also got the possession arrow at the start of the second quarter, so Israel will have the opportunity to reduce that deficit. So
the clock will be ticking down. Carasenti managing to hold on to the ball. I think he lost it for a split second there. Got it across to Zikiao. Zikiao coming back inside. He's got his pal alongside him. Oh, that's a good score, isn't it? Carasenti came all the way round the key from one side to another. That was a really good score. Watch this again. Look where Carasenti comes all the way round.
And 4 in the key I could spot there as well, so it would have been a penalty try. So if the Netherlands had had a player in the penalty box, they would have had to remain there. But Nigri's been released on the full. He served a full 1 minute because Teresa was in the box before him. He ended up serving a full 1 minute, which is unusual in itself.
Yes, yes. So 4 in the key is when 4 defensive players, or 4 players from the team defending, are all in the key together. That's not allowed, and there goes the buzzer for the end of the first quarter. So the Netherlands lead, but they do only lead 13 points to 9. And Israel, I've not for the first time this week, I'm going to say Israel being stubborn and winning some friends here as well for the way they're playing. But it is the Dutch who lead 13-9. We'll look back at some of the highlights of that first quarter. And the Dutch have had 1 or 2 great blocks. That was a superb block, a couple of steals as well. And we've had the usual thrills and spills as well. A reminder, we've got 4 more matches today for you after this one. Czech Republic against Switzerland at 1 o'clock. The first semi-final, Great Britain, Germany at 3:45. France, Denmark this evening at 6 o'clock, and then the 7th, 8th place playoff at 8 o'clock tonight. So a packed old day here in Cardiff. Netherlands 13, Israel 9. And we'll just sum all that up for you by looking at the routes to the various finals and playoffs. And I think this is largely, I think, Simon, certainly the way that the 2 semi-finals have panned out, probably the way you might have predicted it before the tournament started. Great Britain playing Germany, France playing Denmark.
So, on world rankings, that's the way it should have panned out. But I've been saying all week, there's nothing between GB, France and Denmark. Denmark have beaten France in the semi-finals in 2019 in Weiler in these European A Championships. They beat them in the crossover game, the quarter-finals in the World Championships, much to everybody's surprise, apart from perhaps the Danish themselves. So, yeah, anything can happen. And any one of them are capable of winning these championships on the day.
And although things are quiet here this morning, this match officially being played behind closed doors. There are 1 or 2 Dutch supporters in particular here, who we saw earlier, but there will be a big atmosphere in later on for the 2 semi-finals. Great Britain against Germany and France, Denmark. The Germans, by the way, we saw a pocket of German fans here yesterday making a big noise and absolutely loving their experience here. And I spoke to one of them, and he revealed that they're actually Italian.
Italian, yes.
They're
I didn't
Italian.
know whether you knew that.
They've adopted a team. And they've done it before, apparently. They've gone to other tournaments before. I think he said that the last tournament they went to, they supported the Czech Republic, and they have picked Germany to support in this one. So I was quite surprised when I spoke to him, because out came this Italian accent, and I thought, hold on a minute, what's going on here? We're underway again in this second quarter.
So that's a great little story, isn't it?
It is.
And Italy are hosting Division C in September, so they'll have an opportunity to cheer on their own team on home soil, which will be amazing for them.
Van der Laan crossing the line for the umpteenth time this week. 14-9.
So Israel there had the opportunity to cut the deficit to 3, but with that turnover, the Netherlands have now got some clear blue water with a 5-try lead.
Yes, not many teams come from 5 points down, even though we're still at a relatively early stage of this match, as Teresa goes across. He was, well, he's 44 years old. He was paralysed jumping into a river from a high bridge. Van der Laan here with players all around. And he's so slippery, isn't he? Such a slippery customer, Van der Laan. He always seems to find the space.
He does, and great to see him on the court. There was a concern that with him being reclassified from 2 to 2.5, that we might not see as much of him, but they've found a lineup that works, and he's leading the charge. Zikayo there scoring for Israel, pull it back to just a 4-try deficit.
Van der Laan with the ball in his own half. Teams only have 12 seconds to get out of their own half, which the referee will be counting on the fly. Negri comes across, and actually I think Negri just about got a hand in there, diverted the ball away from Emilio Moos. And the other clock that will be running at the moment is the shot clock, 40 seconds to score. So Moos puts his foot on the gas and bursts through. The gold squares above the flags in the top left are the number of timeouts both teams have left in the whole match, not just the half. A big long ball up to Negri, who does well actually to get on the end of that. Sorry, Teresa. Walks the cone over for good measure as well.
Yeah, the referees won't be happy about that. They'll have a little word with him at some point.
It's got to go back in exactly the same place.
Christian Hempfling from Germany making sure that's in exactly the right spot.
And here comes Van der Laan once more. Oh, he got through a really tight spot there. And he's just almost impossible to stop, isn't he? He's quite a wiry individual himself, but he just always seems to sort of squeeze through.
He does. He finds gaps that aren't even there. Brilliant to watch.
Zikia holding the ball high up in the air on one hand, trying to keep it away from Dutch arms. Teresa to Zikia, back again. Oh, that's good. Really good play, but it's a nice nudge from Moos on Negri. Negri was shunted away, and I think the Dutch managed to keep the Israelis out there.
They have. They'll have the ball from the sideline. Yeah, a great little interception there.
We'll see it again here. Zikiao does well, and then Negri's coming up there on the far side. Moos nudges him, and then the ball's over the line before Carasenti can get his hands on it. So a turnover.
When a player tries to take a pass, they've obviously got their hands off the wheels, so that's when players are looking to give them that nudge, because there isn't the same level of control on the chair at that moment in time. And yeah, you can say, you think, that pass is going straight to the player, and then suddenly there's a little tap from behind or from the side, and their chair position just moves.
Carasenti's just got so much smooth speed, hasn't he? He doesn't really seem to be putting an awful lot of effort in. He absolutely is, by the way, but it doesn't look like it. Makes it look very easy, as does Van der Laan. And Israel just having to kind of hang on here. They're not really making an impression on the scoreboard themselves. And of course, the to and fro nature of the sport, like basketball, the moment you miss your score, you're on the back foot straight away, aren't you?
You are, yes. You'll often have games where it seems to go try. They just match each other for quite long periods, and then suddenly turnovers like buses, 3 come along all at once.
Zikiao turning, and there is a gap there, but it's closed off by Ruben van der Laan. We've got a van der Laar and a van der Laan on the court at the same time, which is always great fun. Carasenti manages to get round the back of Bembazan instead. You can see him strapped in to the chair with the straps across the knees, giving him ultimate control. Van der Laan does have van der Laar here, and the van der Laan-van der Laar combination works a treat. The number 4 van der Laar goes across the line. He plays for the Nijmegen Mavericks, 23 years old.
I think the other significant difference between these two sides is the strength in depth. Netherlands will have multiple lineups that they can run during the course of this game. That keeps their players fresh for later games in the tournament. This starting 4 for Israel, we saw play the whole game. They went, the Americans call it Iron Man, where you keep a player plays the entire game. Well, all 4 of them did yesterday, and I think we'll probably see the same again today, and maybe again if they're in that 7th, 8th playoff this evening.
Certainly looks that way at the moment. Yeah, you're right, the strength and depth of Holland. If you look at the players they've still got on the bench, Karabaloot most notably, their 3.5 player, but also the likes of Van den Dop as well, Hector Loma. So they could put out an entirely, well, second string team, if you like, if it's not too unkind to call them that, and they would probably still be dominating Israel in the same manner. Van der Laan with the ball just on the edge of his own key. 20 points to 15, the Dutch lead as we approach half-time. And again, squeezing through a gap, he was helped by Bazan ahead of him there, and Bazan and Mose create a wall for Van der Laan to go around.
We tend to focus on the ball carrier, but there's just so much going on off the ball. The low pointers are there to clear the way for the high point players or the mid point players in Israel's setup. But it's a real team effort, and everybody's working so hard off that ball to block and pick and create screens. So it's the players never stop.
Another score for Van der Laan. And when we look back at the pool stages, Netherlands had 1 win and 2 defeats. They scored 157 points, conceded 140. Whereas Israel lost all 3 of their pool matches. Managed to score 121 points, did Israel, but conceded 173. So you can see that Israel were always going to be up against it today. They did run Switzerland close yesterday. That was Israel's best performance of the tournament. And a bit of running repairs going on here. New wheel. And Karen Senti seems happy with the job that's been done. So off we go again.
Yeah, the mechanics get a 1 minute window for equipment timeouts. If they're not able to effect the repair in that time, then they can substitute the player. Normally you can't get substitutes on at an equipment timeout, but if you have to substitute the player, then the other team can also substitute.
So the relegation you were talking about into the B division, is that for the 7th and 8th place teams, both of them?
Both of those teams will also have relegation staring them in the face, I'm afraid, yes, and we'll have to, whenever the next Division B championships are, which will probably be next year, I suspect, because this A championships takes place every 2 years, so we'll only have 6 teams in Division A. We need the top 2 coming back up from Division B. So you can have a yo-yo effect.
Yes, yeah. And 5th and 6th place here are safe. They keep their A status.
They do, yes. But you've got some other good teams waiting there in Division B to greet whoever comes down, and the likes of Poland and Finland and Sweden will really be challenging hard to make sure that they can get the chance to get back into Division A.
And of course, at the other end of things, later on, we'll be thinking about qualification spots for the Paris Paralympics. The 2 finalists from this tournament get spots in Paris, but there is that sort of quirk, if you like, that because France have a chance of being one of those finalists and they're already hosts and get a spot that way, it means that the team who finished 3rd here in Cardiff will find themselves going to the Paralympic Games next year. So there's a lot at stake later on as Van der Laan gets some more tape added to his glove. Those gloves are absolutely vital, aren't they? You can see they're not gloves that you put on a cold day. They are heavy duty industrial gloves, really, aren't they, to protect the players' hands. There you can see them.
Yeah, they're absolutely essential. You think of the number of times they're turning those wheels, and the friction, and also you want some level of protection as well, because I'm always surprised how few injuries there are to players' hands, but there's always the chance, and players can actually get the thumbs caught between tyre and wings sometimes, which can be very, very painful.
Yes, that is probably making everyone wince at home watching. You can absolutely imagine catching the hand between the wheels, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe sort of also accidental flailing arms from players, yes, and elbows and things like that, as Van der Laar goes across. Yeah. Dutch are stretching away a little bit here now, 6-point lead.
So it's a guy who they're just coasting and allowing his chair to run into the back behind Van der Laar's axle. It wasn't enough to cause a spin or cause him to tip over, but I think as a referee I might have been saying, just cool it down a bit.
Just a reminder that we're watching this match on the practice court inside the Principality Stadium, because at the moment issues with rainwater falling from the inside of the roof here onto the main match court, so that's why things look a little bit different today.
Yeah, I don't think rain stop play was a feature on the risk assessment for this event organisation.
And actually what they did yesterday to try and alleviate the rain situation was actually they opened the roof for no more than about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. They opened the roof slightly, allowed the standing water to sort of move itself, and essentially, I suppose, encouraging the standing water to deliberately fall down, which they could obviously then clear up. But to open the roof, you need it to be not raining outside, so yes, it's a bit of a catch-22 situation.
They timed it well yesterday because there was beautiful blue skies above for something we didn't see, yeah, which was a rarity during yesterday, I think. But
yes, yeah, I mean, the first couple of days of the tournament, it was absolutely beautiful weather in Cardiff, but last night, overnight, and this morning, it's been pretty heavy rain out there, and it is set to continue the rain, so tournament officials will be a bit concerned, I think, for the big matches to come later on. They're going to have to come up with some sort of plan, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them try to open the roof if there's any sort of gap in the rain, I think.
Yes, and I know from discussions that have been going on that they're getting people up on that roof, even in these difficult conditions, to see if they can solve the problem.
Have you volunteered for that role?
I most certainly have not volunteered for that role, as we see Neria Carcenti in the penalty box once more.
Carcenti, we're talking to the volunteer over there, but
that's Keith. He's a volunteer who was here at the Quad Nations in October, and he's a real character. He was president of Blackwood Rugby Club a number of years ago, and been involved in that club for many years.
So we must be approaching the final stages of this half because of the way Emilio Moos just hung onto the ball there and allowed time to count down. So yes, we do hope to be back on the main match court later. But, well, congratulations and thank you really to everyone involved in getting this match on over on the practice court and the coverage of it. There were some early mornings, I'm sure, for lots of people to get this match on. And the winners of this match will be back here tomorrow morning at the same time for the 5th, 6th playoff. Looks like it's going to be the Dutch. And definitely we must be moving towards the final minute or maybe less, because Moos is just ambling around, letting the clock tick down.
Yeah, they've still got the 40-second possession clock on, so we know that there's still more that well, at least 30-40 seconds at the moment. I'm not sure what the game clock was when the 40-second clock started, but yeah, they're managing the possession and the time at the moment. It's got 4 seconds, 3 seconds. They might call a timeout. No try, I don't think. I don't think he had, from the look on his face, and the 40-second clock actually ran out as well before he could gain full possession and get the ball over the line. So it'll be Israeli ball. The shot clock is off, so there's certainly less than 40 seconds remaining in the game. Don't know exactly how much, but we're definitely close to the end of the first half.
Here we go. The buzzer sort of happened somewhere around here, just as he crossed the line.
Yeah, you could see his wheels were over the line before he could gather that in.
So there's a repair going on to Zikiao's chair.
And Christine Hempfling's run out of patience with the Israeli team. They should have been there to do the inbound, so she puts the ball on the floor, and they've got to get it in quickly because her 10-second count continued once her ball was on the floor.
And so quickly they've given the ball away. That was careless. Two big arms across Emilio Moose there. Penalty try, I would have thought.
Most definitely, yes.
We'll see this again. We talked about a player being clotheslined yesterday in the style of wrestling. Watch this. Not one but two of them, and there goes the hooter, the half-time hooter. So the Netherlands are on their way to the playoff for 5th and 6th place at this European Championships. They have a convincing lead, their high point players doing the business for them so far. And it's 28 points to 20. So difficult for Israel to compete at the same level as the Netherlands. It would be interesting to see an all-star team. If the team of the tournament, I know you do get the MVPs and best in class, etc. So essentially, if they were put together in a team, the best of all of the classes play together in a team, that would be quite interesting to see, because you would think they would beat all of the other teams in the tournament.
You would, but I guess then they won't have been used to ever playing with each other.
That's true, this is true. This is true.
Another team could, but it would be a great barbarian style team, yes.
It would be quite the spectacle, wouldn't it? I'm thinking of, you know, I don't know, Stuart Robinson in the same team with Carasenti, or you know, Carabalute, Van der Laan here, and then some of the top defensive players as well. It would be quite fun.
Yes.
And the small pocket of spectators who are in this morning are enjoying themselves. 28-20, the Dutch lead.
Yeah, I think they've allowed a few friends and family in, and I'm sure there's a few that have got very tenuous familial connections have snuck in as well.
So you can see third down on the left there, Netherlands and Israel. So the winners, which looks like the Netherlands, will go through to the 5th, 6th playoff tomorrow morning at 9. And they will play either Czech Republic or Switzerland in that match. But later on, we'll be focusing on the top half of that graphic. Germany against Great Britain, France against Denmark, the two semi-finals, to decide the lineup for the medal matches. And we are all looking forward to those matches later on. Well, that must have got you excited, surely. Great Britain, Germany, later on, the semi-final. The winner of that match will guarantee themselves a place at the Paralympics. Great Britain Paralympic champions. And we are live both on this YouTube channel, but also live on Channel 4 television. From 3:30 this afternoon, the match begins at 3:45. Do not miss that one. And the Germans will give Great Britain a match, no doubt about that. But GB come in as favourites. 7-time European champions, Great Britain. Runners-up last time. So we did talk earlier, Simon, or we mentioned classification because this man here in your picture, Joop van der Laan, the Dutch number 8, who we've seen scoring lots of points, not just today, but this week. He was reclassified this week from a 2 to a 2.5. So how does that happen? I mean, presumably that is a constantly evolving situation at tournaments.
Yes. So players are seen when they first present at international level, and they'll be given a classification, and then the classifiers will do that through a bench test initially behind closed doors, testing the athlete. They'll be looking at the athlete's medical notes, asking questions, seeing what movements and what level of functionality the player presents. And the players must give maximum effort, and then the classifiers will test that classification that they've initially assigned by observation on court. So you will see by the side of the court, we've seen from the shots that there's a team of there's 2 panels working here, and they'll be watching the players they've classified to make sure that those initial thoughts from the bench testing are accurate, and they then may say that yes, that is confirmed as a 2 or a 2.5, or they may say no. Actually, on seeing the player on court, we've noticed that they can do more or they can do less.
But
so
presumably, sometimes that doesn't go down well with the player concerned or their team, because, for example, now, you know, I'm going to make assumptions here, so I don't necessarily know that this is the case, but Resul Karabalut, who we talked about, has played virtually, you know, every minute, certainly 80-90% of the minutes available at this tournament so far. He's been reclassified from a 3 to a 3.5, and we're not seeing him out there today. There could be a number of reasons for that, of course, but one of them could be that by going up to a 3.5, it's changed the coach's options in terms of the total number of points he can put on the court. So the Dutch might not be happy with that. Is there anything they can do in that situation?
They can make a protest, but there's nowhere for that protest to be reviewed now that we've gone beyond the pool stages. So he'll have to wait for another competition, is my understanding. Once a player's been classified at the same class on 3 occasions, then you then get confirmed status. So it's quite a long route before you can actually say, yes, I am definitely this classification.
I can imagine that gentleman doing some amazing tricks, it has to be said, on his bike on the main court. Is one of the performers later on, and it's not just somebody who's made his way in off the street. So we'll look forward to seeing him do that for real later on. But the reason he's on that main match court, able to practice at the moment, is because the rain water is still dropping from the inside of the roof down into all of those buckets and bins that you can see placed out on the court. And this Netherlands-Israel match has been happening on the practice court because of that. Let's remind you, if you're just watching Wheelchair Rugby for the first time this weekend, a basic guide to the rules for you. So hopefully that's helped you understand the rules of wheelchair rugby, and of course we've been trying all week to gently just advise of what's happening as things crop up, but this is certainly an unusual situation here this morning with the match happening on the practice court because of the rainwater on the main court over in the top left of your picture there. That's where we should be playing and hopefully will be playing later. But the sheer scale of the Principality Stadium has enabled them to easily put in a practice court for this week's tournament. Hasn't been built this morning, of course, it's been there all week for players to train on, but it's useful to be able to use it now. I suppose the knock-on effect is that the teams for the later match aren't able to be practicing on it right now, but I guess they'll come in a bit later and everybody will rejig. So suddenly we have a 9-point advantage for the Netherlands, and you may have spotted that we have some new players out there on both sides. Teresa is still out there for Israel, and that's a rather aimless pass which Ben Bazoun should be able to pick up. And Bazoun gives it to one of the new players that's come on, Davy van den Dop, from the Amsterdam Terminators. And van den Dop has scored a shed load of points this week as well, so things don't get any easier for Israel. You can see in the distance there Hector Loma also on as well, the man who came out with a huge grin on his face in that first match that the Netherlands played. He was absolutely delighted to be here and made himself a fan's favourite straight away.
He's a fabulous guy, Hector. We saw there that Israel have transgressed once more, 4 in the key. The Netherlands attack, forcing the defenders back into their key, and KO went to the penalty box, but he's allowed out now that the Netherlands have scored, and Israel have also blown out my prediction that they'd go Iron Man by bringing on
Ziv Benishai was out there, wasn't he? Ziv Benishai is number 9, and then Karasenti's been taken off,
yes,
hasn't he?
He's got a rest. And, as we see Teresa using up one of their timeouts. I think that's the first one they've used, actually.
It is indeed, yeah. And Benishai, number 9 for Israel, is the youngest member of the team. I'm just scanning down Teresa, 44, about the 3rd or 4th oldest player. One of the great features of wheelchair rugby is the age differential. We've got teenagers playing in this tournament, players in their 50s. There's Benishai. Had a motorbike accident as recently as 2017. And Zikio is in a spot of bother here, locked in to his own key, and he's asking the referee what's been given.
Not sure what happened there. It was definitely something happening down court. That's
well, Zikio was completely bemused
yes,
by the decision, wasn't he? He said, "What?"
I am too at the moment, but it's certainly a Netherlands ball, and they'll retreat as Israel have keyed up, and then they'll drive towards that top of that key, and Davy van den Dop just glides through.
He's quite a fearsome prospect when he drives at you like that, isn't he?
Yes, and when you get multiple players all coming at you, which gap do we cover? And we can, we've got 4 players driving into the key, but only 3 allowed to stop them in the key.
Moves with possession here. You can see the Israeli players lined up, 4 of them. I think Zikia's just on the edge of the key, just staying out, that is.
Great work there by Ben Bazoun, the number 7 for the Netherlands. He'd secured that corner. You're always trying to drive the defenders in towards the centre of the key so that you can get round the sides and get in by the post.
There was a brilliant over-the-head pass there, wasn't there? Reverse pass just now by Zikia. Good stuff from the 35-year-old. And Nitsahon down here with the put-in.
Okay, so Hugo van Eersel comes on to the court for the Netherlands and gets a clap from his team. I don't know whether it's his birthday today or Well, what? But that's unusual to see a team applaud a teammate coming on partway through the second half of the game.
There's a remarkable connection between Van Ursel and the Dutch captain, who we've not seen yet. He was actually part of our commentary team yesterday for one of the games, Raider Houam. And Houam and Van Ursel were both competitive swimmers in their day, and they were both paralysed in diving accidents on the same date, but 12 years apart. A remarkable coincidence. They were both the same age when their accidents happened as well, and now here they are both in the Dutch wheelchair rugby squad. So we might see Raider Houam later on.
We may well do. But yes, that is just such an amazing coincidence.
And Kera Balut's still on the bench, which is a bit of a surprise. I suspected he might be one of the players we saw coming on at the start of this second half. But for now, Zikiao can either glide to the try line himself, or he chooses to give it to Teresa. And waiting for the ball in there is Ben Ishai, and that was a good pass from Zikiao. And the young Israeli here, 19 years old, 1-point player, gets a try. And for those 1-point players, the low point players, every try to them that they score at a championships is precious and memorable.
Absolutely, yes. So the high pointers and the main ball carriers score tries left, right and centre. But yeah, it's a moment to be cherished when low pointers get over the line.
But you can see that the Dutch have a 12-point lead, which they are absolutely not going to give up. So the Dutch can book their place back here tomorrow morning, and Israel will have to come back here this evening for the 7th, 8th place playoff.
That's going to be a really tough game for both teams in that they've got to pick themselves up from the disappointment of this morning and then try and go again, and both of them will want to register a win.
It's the coach's timeout. I suppose one consolation, so we were talking about how the 7th and 8th place teams get relegated down to Division B again. I suppose the one consolation is it's both of them. It's not a head-to-head match where the loser goes down and the winner stays in, which, I mean, you know, as a spectacle and for spectators and things, people watching, that would be quite something. But at least
yes,
once you're in the 7th and 8th place playoff here, you know your fate.
Yes, absolutely. But they'll both still want to be the ones that come away with the victory.
Ranking points, presumably.
That's exactly what they'll be playing for, and they can make a difference as to which events you're invited to and able to take part on.
Israel currently ranked 20 coming into this tournament. Netherlands ranked 14. I would guess that the Netherlands will potentially move up a couple of places on, particularly if they were to finish 5th, maybe.
But potentially, the ranking points are a whole world of mystery.
Yes, yeah, in every sport.
Yeah, there's a historical element to them, and there's always discussion as to how long you should go back and so forth. So GB are the Paralympic champions, but they're 3rd in the world rankings at the moment. Australia are the world champions, but and I'm trying to remember, I think they're now back to 2nd, but yeah, it's really tight up there, and if there's a big gap, it can take you years to claw that differential back.
The magic spray being applied to Karasenti there. He's taken a bit of a knock, or perhaps some sort of graze. But I think he'll be okay. I mean, they can always rest him for the rest of this match. He's got to play again tonight by the looks of it, so he might well sit out the rest of this one if he's struggling, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm a big golf follower, and the world rankings are no less mysterious in golf either. They're in a bit of a situation with it at the moment. So Emilio Moos is going to pick this ball up, take it away from Zikiao. And I'm just looking back at the scores here. So Netherlands scored 43 points against France, 48 points against Germany, and then a massive 66 against Czech Republic. Feels like they'll do well to top that 66 in the time remaining.
I not sure they will have a problem if Israel keep inbounding to them. It's
Yes.
it's going to be a long night for Israel, I'm
That will
afraid.
certainly help, and Davy van den Dop gets across to make it 37. And the frustrating thing for Israel here is there's nothing really they could do about this situation. I mean, of course, they can tighten up and not give the ball away, as you're saying, but there's nothing particularly different they can do in an attacking sense as Teresa goes over.
Yeah, and that was a great try. They play some fabulous rugby at times, but it's just that relentless pressure from the Netherlands and the teams with high pointers who are able to cut off their mid pointers and low point players. That yeah, really they have to work hard for every single try they score.
Sid Kiao deserves a big rest at the end of this week because he's played the vast majority of minutes in every single match. That's Benny Shai, who you can see he's a tall man. His knees are forced quite high up there in the chair, but that gives that low centre of gravity with the chair as well. There's no danger of the chair falling backwards because of the little coasters you can see on the back of all of the chairs, a bit like the chairs that wheelchair tennis players use as well, which mean that they're very manoeuvrable around the court, very stable.
A number of years ago, World Wheelchair Rugby brought in a ruling that you must have 2 anti-tip devices, as they're referred to. There were a lot of players who had chairs with just one, and
in the centre, presumably.
in the centre,
yeah.
and we were getting a lot of players, some of them playing here at this tournament, who would spend more time on the floor than they would upright.
Big hit from Davy van den Dop on Sid Kiao, another one there from Loma.
So player safety being absolutely paramount. The rule makers said no, we've got to make sure everybody has 2 anti-tip devices.
I suppose in those days with the tipping being more common, there was always the danger of players kind of hitting the back of their heads on the courts. So that was an important step forward in player safety.
Very much so.
And it means actually that, I mean, ironically, with the rainwater on the main match court, I think it's fair to say it's not so much that the chairs would slip on that surface. It's, you know, it's you guys, the referees out there. It's quite risky to you. I suppose it might make some of the chairs skid, perhaps, if a player tried to stop suddenly on that patch of water.
Yes, and you'll lose all traction at that point. You make contact with the water, so players are trying to drive through it, and all of a sudden,
yeah,
you're not going
anywhere. The
anywhere.
wheels are turning, and you're not going anywhere. So Moses is going to sit in the bench. There were arms in there on his previous challenge. Here's Shabtai Nitzahon, 49 years young, Nitzahon, with the best eyebrows at the tournament.
Yes, they are very strong, aren't they?
I feel like if there are film producers watching this, they could Shabtai Nitzahon could hoover up a role in the next Bond film, I think. Look at that. He's got a fantastic stare as well. He's got a glare, but he's a lovely chap. We've heard him in interviews this week. And Moose is just off the ball, gone in on Nitzahon. That's brilliant. Watch this. Oh, there we go.
Thanks for nothing, pal.
Well, there we go.
I think he got that glare. I think he was auditioning for that that part you've just put him up for.
That was very good timing. We were
Brilliant.
chatting away about his eyebrows, and we were there for the close-up on the big hit in on Nitzahon. So it's been just as entertaining this morning over on the practice court. No crowd as such to cheer them on this morning, I think, because of other things happening across the UK today. The organisers decided that they wouldn't make tickets available for this morning session.
What could be a bigger spectacle than
Well,
this?
I don't know.
I can't understand.
Here's Emilio Moose. Easy passage to the try line, and there can't be long left in this third quarter now. There are still people on the main court, by the way, standing around those buckets, hands on hips, looking at how much water has been collected in them.
there is a story going around that Frank Lampard, in a bid to get his Chelsea players more confidence, he laid out dustbins on the practice field, and apparently he was really pleased with what happened, because the dustbins only won by 1-0.
Deary me.
I'm a Chelsea fan, by the way.
Okay. That was an unprovoked attack on Chelsea there, but as you're a Chelsea fan, we'll let you have it. I thought you were going to say Frank Lampard got his team having a go at wheelchair rugby in a training session.
That
So
might
I wasn't
be good.
expecting that.
Yeah. They need a bit of aggression, I think.
They do.
Bit of fight.
And funnily enough, as a bit of a segue, I mean, the celebrity match yesterday showed that actually it's really interesting when you put people in the chairs and put them out there on the court who the majority of them had never played wheelchair rugby before yesterday.
No, and I think what was great about that was it showed people how skillful these guys on the court now are. The way they manoeuvre those chairs, they catch the ball, they change direction, the speeds they can generate. Those celebrities could do nothing like that.
Yes.
You'd see them, they'd take their hands off the wheels to catch the ball, they put it in their lap, and then they think, right, what do I do now? And it took them a long time to get that coordination right. But these players are just so fantastic. Their chair skills are absolutely amazing, and their ability to catch the ball, change direction, and push all at the same time is phenomenal.
Good score there from Israel. The player that caught our eye yesterday, I think, in that celebrity match was Lily Rice, the Welsh para-swimmer, and we were talking in commentary, and I think Drew Lilly asked her in her interview whether she would consider taking up wheelchair rugby, because she showed a lot of promise. And actually I was speaking to the stadium announcer here on my way out last night, who said that there were representatives from the Swansea Ospreys wheelchair rugby club here yesterday who were genuinely trying to sort of tap her up and see if she'd come to a training session.
You're absolutely right. I said to my fellow referee, Dave Woods, I said, she's a player.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could see, for a swimmer, she had real game sense. I mean, which is unusual, not being unkind to swimmers, but it's an individual sport. You only go in one direction, other than the turns. But yeah, she had really great skills. Very impressive.
The secret to her skills, though, Lily Rice, was that she's also a wheelchair motocross exponent, and she's used to doing tricks, and she even does backflips. So on a skate park, on a skateboard ramp, they will do tricks and jumps, and she's, if you go on YouTube, you can see her doing a backflip in the chair. So that was why I think she was so good. What a big hit there on Van der Laan from Teresa. Still plenty of aggression out there, which is good to see from Israel. It would be very easy for their heads to go down. Oh yes, head-on collision between those two, and then eventually he gets pushed over by Zikiao, wanting to get on with the game, because the hooter has just gone for the end of the third quarter, and the Netherlands really comfortable lead now, 45 points to 29, so a 16-point lead going into this final quarter.
We're due an upset at some point, Andy. Every game has gone by the form book or by the world rankings thus far. Something's going to happen in a 20-game tournament. There's always something to upset the form book and get the crowd going. So
there's not many matches left for there to be a shock. So let's see if there's going to be a shock now. It's going to be a significant one.
I think so. Yes.
So I'm looking down this Dutch lineup. We still haven't seen Kera Baloot. We've not seen Reda Houam, the team captain. Not really seen much of Hugo van Ursel or Arne van Egmond. So they still have players. If they wanted to, they could refresh the entire quartet, I think. Just counting up the points, I think they could put those, certainly 3 of those 4 out if they wanted to.
Certainly they're in a position where they can afford to run the entire bench and give guys some game time, some court time, and maybe try a few things. Now they've had those classification changes. let's see what those options are and how those lines look.
We'll see in the final quarter. We've been talking about the celebrity match. Let's look back at the best bits of that for you. That was Nat Pritchard from Dirty Sanchez, who was in typical fashion as a stuntman, having fun with the fireworks. But the match itself was very lively. There was some good skills on show. There's Lily Rice, who we were talking about. She was absolutely superb. So we had rugby internationals, TV presenters, Paralympic medalists in other sports, and Jim Roberts and Kylie Grimes. And then this, to finish off, was fantastic. The Welsh anthem from Wyn Evans at the end of the match, rather than the start.
It was brilliant fun.
Celebrating a Welsh win.
It was great to be part of it. So Wales had a very strong half-time lead, but England came out all guns blazing, and Catherine Granger was another one who caught the eye. And as England started to claw it back, Jim Roberts then came flying off the bench.
Yes, Jim Roberts
to secure that Welsh win.
Jim Roberts was taken off at half-time, wasn't he? And we all looked at each other and went, "What's going on here?" I suspect there might have been a little element of wanting to make it a closer contest, as it was essentially a friendly match, but Jim Roberts was brought back on and helped Wales to that 11-7 win.
Well, I and Dave Woods found ourselves in a kangaroo court at 10 o'clock last night. One of the evaluators, we had Judge Kerin Banfield, who was second voice on
here with me yesterday.
With you yesterday. She was the judge. There was Kristin Hempfling, who's refereeing now, was prosecuting attorney. She was our evaluator, and we had no defence whatsoever
for Jim Roberts being taken off.
Well, all of our refereeing decisions were called into question throughout the game, and some severe penalties were dished out for our transgressions as we tried to allow the game to flow. So I was asked, Simon Starr, did you ignore an over and back? I said no. I ignored 3 or 4 over and backs.
Difficult for the referees in those celebrity fun matches, but it was great yesterday. And the Netherlands on easy street here really against Israel. Netherlands finished 3rd in Pool A. Hector Loma, big smile from him. He is loving his week here at the European Championships. Great to see.
He's just a fabulous character, really lovely guy.
I think I'd like to go for a beer with Hector Loma. He looks a lot of fun.
He does.
47-31 now, the Netherlands lead, and Kera Balut just in the foreground there, I think, is getting ready to come on, which is bad news for Israel. Good news for the Netherlands if they're going to try and reach that 66-point total that they made against the Czech Republic earlier in the tournament. The Netherlands finishing 3rd in Pool A with 1 win and 2 losses. And the differentials between the teams are not massive really, but they are significant, and it all comes down to the lack of high point players, as we've been saying a couple of times this week. So let's see, I think Kera Balut might well be coming on now. Number 2 there, down in the bottom right. So Kera Balut and Moose are both going to be on the court at the same time, so that's 6 points just between the two of them, with Kera Balut's new classification, which means they have 2 low point players as well now, Van Ursel and the captain, Raider Houam, is coming on, which is good to see. Nice to see Houam. Made his debut all the way back in 2008, so he's been around a long time. So Kera Balut 3.5, Moose 2.5, Houam 1, and Van Ursel 1 as well. Gives you a total of 8, and that's the way it works.
Van Ursel celebrating the small victory of forcing Israel to use their 3rd timeout, or no? Yes, they've got just the one left.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Nigri over there for Israel, gives it to Zidkiau. And Zidkiau has the speed to get away from Moose. So Kera Balut gets his first meaningful touch. Reclassified as a 3.5 player. And Caribou goes whizzing up into the distance, allowing Moose to push his way through, maybe.
So another transgression, either illegal use of hands or possibly 4 in the key.
Yeah, Guetta, I think, was... Well, it's Negri going into the box. Guetta, I think, reacting to the decision, looking at the referee and scrunching up his face with frustration. Negri doesn't look... Well, he's either not happy with himself for making the mistake or he's not happy with the decision. I can't quite tell at the moment. But not happy with life.
I think the Israeli coach might have been asking Kristin Hempfling, what was that for, ref? But, yeah, coaches and referees obviously have a love-hate relationship. Yes. It's the same in every sport.
So 4 on 3 for a few moments here.
Equally, in this sport, there's a lot of respect between the two parties.
Yeah, you don't see... I'm sure you know, have it on the court, but back chat I'm talking about, but it doesn't ever... You don't have players ganging up round you as we see in football often, and the players swearing at you, shouting at you, etc.
Not at all. And on the very rare occasion that you do get a bit of dissent, the referees are very quick to issue a technical foul, and that player finds themselves with a minute or until the opposition score to contemplate the folly of their actions.
So it doesn't look like Zikiao needs a new wheel here. It's maybe just an adjustment, or are they struggling to get the wheel off?
Yeah, I think it might be an axle problem, but it also could be casters as well. He's running his hand underneath the rim there, the wings, just trying to... Something might be rubbing. So his chair might have taken a hit, and that wheel's just rubbing, or something's not right. He's not comfortable.
No.
Sometimes you can get an accumulation of dirt underneath those casters in particular, that and if they pick stuff up, but there doesn't seem to be anything stopping him from driving down court now.
Yeah, it's a good test this, isn't it? Yeah. A test to see if he's happy with the chair now again. Bounces the ball. Players have to do that. Either pass the ball or bounce the ball every 10 seconds, and Moose has got the ball off him. That's a great steal from Emilio Moose. Who knows if Zikiao's still having issues with his chair or not, but either way, he lost his concentration there for a moment.
It was a great piece of play from Emilio. He waited until Mordecai looked the other way to see where his outlet pass might be, and then as he took his hands off the ball, he flipped it out. Brilliant. The really top players will be watching like a hawk exactly what the opponent, the ball carrier, is doing when they take their hands off the wheels, when they're picking the ball up, they'll know when they're looking to bounce the ball as well, and they'll be looking for a steal at that opportunity. The players, once they're in possession, they start counting in their heads for that 10 seconds. So and a lot of teams in training will play. They won't play 10 seconds no dribble. They'll play 8 seconds no dribble to get that discipline. So you're not making that mistake. It's a rare call at this level. It's a regular call at Division 2 level in the GBWR leagues and in club competitions the world over. But at this elite level, the players are so disciplined, and it looks like they're going to have to substitute him. I think, because they're struggling to sort that wheel issue out.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you see the wheel come off there, the chair does still stay upright because of the coaster at the front and the coaster at the back, but clearly it only gives the player then one wheel to be pushing. It just wouldn't work at all. Nice hit from Caribou, but I think Teresa got across.
Yes, I think he must have crossed the line before he was driven into the cone. So Zikiao's misfortune is Lahat's benefit, because he's now getting some court time, which is nice to see.
So they've replaced 3.5 Zikiao with Lahat, the 3-pointer. Sorry, Zikiao's two-pointer. I mean, just actually on that, having talked about classification, I'm not expecting you to know in detail, but Zikiao to me looks like a player who is far more functional than a 2-point player. But that's just my amateur eye. But they're obviously looking at every single player.
Yes, I mean, there's some great 2-pointers, 2.5s, who you think, wow, how are they play better than some high point players.
I suppose Jamie Stead actually similar in the Great Britain side. He's a 2.5 player, the best in the world probably in that points classification.
Yeah. And it will depend a lot on your disability, whether you've got trunk, because trunk scores you. That the classifiers have a point system and
checklist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so having trunk will, I'm not sure of the exact amount that having trunk scores you, but trunk is such a key area for players. It allows them to do so much more, and a lot of spinal injuries won't have that trunk function.
Well, as soon as we were talking about him coming on, Dan Lahat has been sent into the sin bin because he's been knocked into the cone, which is perfectly legal.
Yes. Yep. Well, illegal for him.
Legal for the legal for the Dutch player to push him into the cone. Illegal for Lahat, even though he was really just sat there and pushed into the cone.
Yeah. You're there minding your own business, waiting for a pass, and all of a sudden somebody drives you off the court.
I suppose the ideal then, going back to the classification chat, is to find players who, I suppose, outperform their classification without their classification having to change. You know, their functionality,
Yes.
their disability, their impairment still remains, but they kind of outperform it.
Yeah, so that speed is not a measure within the classification. Strength is not a measure within the classification.
Yeah.
So
and Zikiao is exactly that, really, isn't he? I'm saying exactly that his speed and skill is brilliant, and particularly brilliant when you consider he's only a 2-point player.
Yes.
So the Netherlands here in complete control, 53-34.
Yeah, GB had a player, Ross Morrison, 2.5. Huge guy, really strong. Played for GB at London 2012. Was the athlete representative on the council before Jens Sauerbier. And yeah, when I first came into the sport and saw Ross, I thought, wow, he's just phenomenal, amazing player. Had great speed, great manoeuvrability for a big guy, and yeah, it's all about the injury, the disability, and the level of functionality.
20 tries for Emilio Moos in this match, 20 out of the 54 that Netherlands have got this morning on this practice court. And timeout again.
Yep, and Yun Ho Kim from Korea reports it to the table. He'll be shown a clenched fist back by the scorekeeper, which is the signal to say Israel have no more timeouts.
So 54-34, this 20-point margin. Obviously, it's going to be a huge win for the Netherlands, and it means they will play in the 5th, 6th playoff tomorrow morning again at 9 AM. And Israel will go into the 7th, 8th playoff, which is tonight at 8 o'clock. So it's a long old day for Israel. And Teresa is over. In fact, I think it was the momentum was his. He was crashing into the Dutch player here.
Nice pass from Lahat, and Teresa with a beautiful pass. I think they were under 12 seconds getting the ball over halfway pressure, and I think the whistle had gone fractionally before. Yes, the ball's going to be inbounded in the front court, which suggests a 12-second penalty.
So we've not seen much of Karabalut in this match, but he just goes about his business very quietly. You don't really see a great deal of emotion on his face. He just gets on with his job, and he does it very, very well.
Played in the GB leagues for a few seasons, along with a couple of other players from the Netherlands, and adds a great dimension when we get players from Europe being part of the GB leagues.
Yes, Fredriksson from Denmark has been one of the other stars of the tournament. He's also had spells in the British leagues as well. Different style of inbound from the Netherlands, and having a player like Moos to chase onto that gives them the long ball direct option.
That's It's a great punt pass there from Hugo van Ursel.
So a reminder, we've got plenty of action coming up later. Czech Republic, Switzerland at 1 p.m. Great Britain, Germany, 3:45. That one's live on Channel 4 TV. France, Denmark at 6 is the other semi-final. And then the 7th, 8th playoff, which will be Israel versus either the Czechs or the Swiss at 8 p.m. So a full day of action here inside the Principality Stadium. This match, there's no denying it, it's been very one-sided. But the Israelis have lots of spirit and they will keep going right to the end. (57:35) now. The Dutch closing in on 60 points.
The Israel team and their coach will have half an eye on the fact that they've got to come back later this evening and play again. As referee Kim from Korea signals held ball. So they go by the possession arrow, which is Israel. No, it's going to be the Netherlands ball.
We've not seen Zidkiau come back on, so either they are still having issues with his chair, or perhaps because of the issues with his chair, they've decided, well, just no point him coming back on anyway, really. Let's rest him for tonight. The wheel's back on, so he probably could come back on if they wanted him to.
I think I've seen Offa Gips come onto the court. There he is, number 5. His first action for the day.
He's an electronic engineer by trade. There, Gips. So we've got another player on the deck. Teresa again. Bit of rough and tumble.
Tried to call time out, but he hasn't got any left in the locker, I'm afraid.
No.
So
that's right. There was a bit of a pirouette there, wasn't there? Falling as he turned.
Fallen player is, once they're righted, it becomes an equipment timeout, and they have a minute to make sure that he's okay and fit to continue.
So Israel with the put-in is our friend Nitzahon. As I said, 49 years old, Nitzahon. He's done well to get away from Karabalut, but then he's nudged by Karabalut, and Nitzahon loses possession, and it's a turnover, and Karabalut will make him pay. Well played to Nitzahon for coming back to him, but Karabalut had too much speed. Watch this, there was just a nudge there as he, just at a crucial moment as Nitzahon was trying to control the ball.
Yeah, Nitzahon was trying to get his bounce in there nice and early once he'd crossed halfway, but Razel knew exactly when, as he bounced that ball, then the tap came in and it just pushed him further than an arm's length away from the ball. Very clever play.
10 tries in the match for Teresa. And a bit of game time now for Arne van Egmond. So the Dutch quite sensibly using all of their squad this morning.
Yep, Scott Van Polen on as well for the first time, and Hector Loma as well. He might get his second try of the day. Oh, no,
so
he's just picking up the loose ball, sorry, first.
So it's not sort of sentiment, it's kind of just getting the players some game time to help them later on. Well, tomorrow really, for the 5th, 6th playoff place. Karabalut on this occasion stopped.
But Nitzahon was driven back by Karabalut and Van Egmond. So he left the court between the cones, so that now must serve his penalty. The rule makers are looking at options to change the penalty situation, and whether we might go to purely a time served situation. So no try release. You serve a 10 second, 12 second, 15 second, 20 second, certainly something less than a minute for tries, and that could really change the game.
We're into the final minute or so, I believe. Adi Guetta bunts the ball downfield. But Karabalut is there. Adi Guetta, the Israeli captain, getting some game time right at the end of this match. Hector Loma, really determined player. Look at him, I love the facial expressions as he plays. Big celebration as well. It's fantastic, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah,
what a character.
A joy to watch, and yeah, joy is what you see etched on every line of his face. Brilliant.
And at the other end, off-air Gibbs might be able to turn here and get across. Good block from Van Egmond, and Loma there to help him out as well. And the Dutch get the ball. Loma grappling with the ball to keep hold of it. And Karabalut will sail across the try line. The Dutch coach, Martin van Hinter, putting his jacket jersey on. We are coming to the conclusion of this match. And Israel have, well, they've brought something to this tournament, there's no doubt about that. They haven't been here just to make up the numbers, but it is going to be a 4th straight defeat for the Israelis, I'm afraid. The players cuddling the ball there.
Held ball again as they grappled for it, but this time the possession arrow is in favour of Israel, so they'll retain possession. Looks like the possession clock is off, so we really are into the last knockings here.
Well, there you are, right on cue. That was the hooter, and it is a big win, another big win for the Netherlands, 63-36 against the Israelis, and it means that the Netherlands go into tomorrow's playoff for 5th and 6th place at this year's European Championships. The Israelis will be back tonight at 8 p.m. for the playoff to determine who finishes 7th and 8th. But the Dutch have been really, really entertaining at this year's European Championships, and they will play either the Czech Republic or Switzerland in that match tomorrow. And you would fancy Netherlands against either of those two teams. I think it's fair to say Netherlands beat Czech Republic in the pool stage already. But really, the Dutch had made sure of this result from right at the start of the match, to be honest. They were on it from the very first minute. Started off with their A-listers, really, Van der Laan and Moos. And Israel couldn't really compete with the Dutch this morning on the practice court, as organisers look to get the main match court playable for later on, with the rainwater dripping down from the roof. But well done to everyone involved for getting this match on the practice court, and for us being able to show it to you. But this is just the first of 5 matches here today for you to enjoy. So it's a big Saturday at the European Championships. We'll take a check on how this result influences things. There are the Netherlands on the right-hand side now in that 5th-6th playoff tomorrow. Israel back tonight. And the big matches at the top there, the 2 semi-finals this afternoon and this evening. Germany, Great Britain at 3:45 and France, Denmark at 6 o'clock. Don't miss either of those. They are sure to be tremendous contests. I suspect we will be staying on this practice court for this next match at 1 p.m. Czech Republic against Switzerland, to see who will play the Netherlands to decide 5th and 6th place. So that's coming up just before 1 o'clock. Our coverage will start, and Great Britain, Germany later at 3:30. Thanks to you, Simon, for being with me, and thanks to you for watching. Be back with us shortly for Czech Republic versus Switzerland just before 1.